Feast of the Dead by Cedric Kudret. Dursunagha is dead! A boy told the first man he saw. Dursunagha was a familiar figure of the street. He was the water carrier who barely made both ends meet with wife and two children in his small two-story house. His entire capital consisted of two water cans and a pole with a chain dangling from either end. When Gulnas heard the news, she froze. What was Gulnas going to do now? She thought and thought, but could make no decision. It is Muslim tradition for the neighbors to send food for a day or two to the bereaved household. The first meal came to Gulnas and her two children from the White House at the corner. To tell the truth, no one had thought of eating that day. But soon as the cover was lifted from the tray, there was a giving in, a relaxation of feelings. Another neighbor took care of the food for the next day. This went on for 3 of 4 days. The first day food stopped coming in. They kept their hopes up until noontime, running to the door with a sound of each footstep in the street outside, hoping to see a big tray with a white cloth cover over it. But instead, they saw people simply going about their daily lives, merely passing by, their empty hands hanging at the end of their arms. For the next few days, they ate whatever they found here and there in the house. 2 onions, 1 clove of garlic, and a handful of dry lima beans found in the corner of the cupboard. Finally, there came a day when all the pots, baskets, and boxes in the house were empty. That day, for the first time, they went to bed on empty stomachs.
The next day was the same. In the late afternoon, the little boy started crying.
Mother, it hurts inside.
Gulnas beckoned to the older boy. He got up and both left the room.
We must go to Bod's, the grocer. Ask for some rice, flour, and potatoes. Tell him we'll pay him in a few days.
The boy's shabby coat was not heavy enough to keep out of cold of the street. He had to steady himself against the wall as he walked. Finally, he reached the store. He let others take their turn. After everyone's gone, he ordered a pound of rice, a pound of flour, and a pound of tomatoes. Put his hands in his pocket as if reaching his money and then pretending to have left it at home. Looking annoyed, he said, "Oh, I left the money home. How do you like that? I have to go all the way home in this cold and come back again. Write it down, won't you? And I'll bring it when I come tomorrow." Boris knew the tricks of the game only too well. Looking over his glasses, he said, You've become so thin. Someone who has money at home doesn't get so thin." He put the boy's order on one side. "First, bring the money and then you take this," he said. "All right," the boy said, embarrassed to see his lie found out. "I'll bring it." He hurried out. The boy was finding the iciness of the street more unbearable than he had before he entered the store. He walked toward his own house as quickly as he could, his teeth chattering. Entering the room, he said nothing to his mother and brother. His empty hands spoke for him.
Before their questioning eyes, he took off his clothes and went to his bed. When he spoke, he said, "I am cold." The blanket rose and fell on his trembling body. The trembling lasted for an hour and a half or more. Then came the fever and exhaustion. The boy lay flat on his back, stretched out motionless, his eyes staring vacantly. The woman paced through the house till evening, desperate. She did not know what to do. She couldn't think. She kept on going into the room and out again, looking with empty, glazed eyes at the walls, the ceiling, and the furniture. The boy's fever went up. The woman sat motionless, staring. The younger boy couldn't sleep from hunger. He, too, was watching the sick boy moan slowly. When the sick boy started talking again with the fever, the younger boy sat up in his bed and said in a low, soft voice, audible only to his mother, "Mother, will my brother die?" The woman shivered as if touched by the cold wind on her skin. She looked at her son with frightened eyes.
Why do you ask that?
The boy paused for a minute under his mother's gaze. Then he leaned close to her ear and said softly, trying hard to hide his voice from his brother, "Because then the food will come from the White House."
Lesson time.
Time. First, who is the author of the story?
Kudret Savdet was the author of the story. Born February 7, 1907 in Istanbul. Turkish writer and literary scholar. Upon graduating from the law school of the University of Istanbul in 1933, Kudret Savdet practiced law. From 1934 to 1945, he taught literature in Turkish higher educational institutions. He began to publish in the 1930s. In his collection of poems, The First Act in 1929, his Play the Wolves in 1933, and his novel Class Comrades in 1943. It treats contemporary social problems. He is the author of a number of studies on Turkish literature and art, including the short story and novel in Turkish literature in 1965 to 1967 and Karagos in 1968 to 1970.
Second, the summary of the story.
The story is about a family. One day the father, the breadwinner of the family, died. The rest of the story shows what the situation is and how the family deal with the death of the breadwinner.
And third, who are the character of the story?
Dursun Agha, a water fetcher, the husband of Gulnas. Gulnas, an infrequent laundress. Bods, the grocer, and the two sons.
Fourth, what are some of the tradition and culture of the Turkish people shown in the story?
Turkish culture is very family-oriented. There is a strong belief that people should maintain ties with their relatives and care for the parents and elders in their old age. Most households are nuclear, with the average number of children for a couple being 2. Men as the breadwinner and provide the main source of household income. They are often exempt from most domestic duties, with the exception being male children who are expected to help their mothers. Women are generally seen as homemakers, managing money, cooking, cleaning, and hosting. It is common to see both traditional Muslim attire and modern European fashion in city streets. Woman is recommended to dress modestly to avoid drawing the wrong impression or unwanted attention. In accordance to this age hierarchy, the eldest sibling, preferably the son, usually takes on the role of caretaker for younger siblings when parents are absent. Turkey is a secular country with a majority Muslim population. When someone dies, neighbor will help through giving some food for the family of the deceased.
And last, what is your insight about the story?
After reading The Feast of the Dead, it is talk about the family in the society and how someone can react in the situation that they have. I'm sad about what the younger son told. It seems that he wants his older brother to die in order for them to have foods came from the White House.
This story tells their culture that until now, the woman in their country represents broken legs when their partner dies or isn't around. What if the mother is wise and still hardworking, even if her husband is dead? I don't see the hunger if she continued to be laundress and still strong in their situation. Well, that was my thought, because Filipino women are methodical. I realized that death is our final journey. It is visible to us to see ourselves sleeping without breathing, but the sadness about being dead is someone wishing or wanted you to die in order for them to be better in life.
Death is much unexpected, but we must be ready to overcome every circumstances. This work also shows the unseen poverty of some member of the society that keeps on fighting just to live properly. It makes me realize these things. We don't have the assurance of what will happen tomorrow, so let us give importance and show our love to those people around us. Enjoy every moment with them. And we must be ready to overcome every situation or circumstances that we will be facing. Next, we may have different situations in life, but let us learn to look on the bright side. We don't know, somewhere out there, someone is starving to death. Let us learn to be grateful on what we have and let us help as long as we can.
For me, the story depicts the problem of a family in the society. It is really sad that this is really happens in real life. We cannot just blame them for what they are doing in everyday life, that they reach that point of their life. Because not all of us are privileged. So, I just realized that we should be thankful for everything that we have. Because there are people who can't have what we have right now.
And that's all for our lesson time.